The home of the common Joe and the common Sally in the know, even more so than all those media talking heads. Old Alex Grinch had a crappy defense, E-I-E-I-O, with 46 here and 45 there, everywhere Tulane, everywhere UCLA. Old Alex Grinch, in this article, it seems like he's trying to finesse, to me, maybe, the USC fans for tempered expectations? Or is it because he's going to have another crappy defense? Let's talk about it. It's back. Shh. That's right. The grilling sessions are back. The grilling sessions are a great thing in the off season to pass the time until we can get back to our favorite sport, and that is college football. And Lincoln, old Linky boy, who was a part of the grilling sessions quite profusely, is going to have a little heat taken off of him in this grilling session. But it'll be a guy from his staff. That's right. Oh, Alexis Grinch. Oh, Alex, that's right, the infamous or famous coordinator, the defensive coordinator from the USC Skillshitters. But before we get to all that, this is the outlaw of college football. Acronymically speaking, that stands for the OCF, and here they come, the Outlaw Posse, riding on in once again. Also, on Facebook under Jesse Paul Clark, spelled J-E-S-S-E without the I, and on Twitter at OCF Productions. Now, getting right to it here. It got a little article here. Took a few notes. Old school style, just the way everybody likes it. And in this article, Saturdau Out West, it starts off talking about how old Alex Grinch give up back-to-back 40-point games in his last two games to UCLA and Tulane, losing one of those games. And in this article, you'll see throughout this article, I'm going to throw up the graphs here off and on, Alex Grinch, he'll act like he's trying to be positive about it, but then you'll see him sort of ease up off that gas because he wants to temper expectations. But I've never understood why coaches be like, well, let's temper expectations when they run their mouth and say, we need to expect more. We're the mecca of college football. That's what the Messiah, Lincoln Riley, the Messiah of the Skillshitter, said. He said that this was the mecca of college football. So if it's the mecca, then you should have what? High expectations. So let's not be tempering anything. Let's not be trying to finesse people. Let's not be talking out of both sides of our mouth here, Alexis. Also, in this article, he says, we're going to rip the Band-Aid off real quick. I think you might need to take that defense out, like that old movie, Old Yeller, and just put it down, man. Just shoot that defense philosophy right in the head, because you need to do something completely different than what you've been doing with these speed defenses or whatever it is you like to call it. I don't know if it's a bend but don't break. You guys and gals probably have a better grasp of the terminology of this supposed cutting edge defense that's been cut. It's cutting edge, all right. It's been getting cut to hell up. It says on here that USC went out and added 6 players from the portal defensively, including all Big 12, Mason Cobb, and former 5-star defensive lineman Anthony Lucas, as well as the other 4. Looks like here what they're trying to do with this is to try to make it look like this was some grand recruiting odyssey that USC and Alex Grinch went on, and they just conquered the world. But all this tells me is that they're unable to recruit on the recruiting trail when it comes to high school football players, where it really matters the most, because Lincoln Riley has yet to finish in the top 10 with USC in recruiting. And what they do is they go out and get other people's players And most of the time, more times than not, I'd say it'd be about 70% of the time, transfer portal players are transferring for a reason. And it's usually not a good reason. It's usually because they couldn't make the cut. Now, you'll get one or two every once in a while that are diamonds in the rough, or maybe they just didn't like the coach they were playing for and they are really talented. Like, Caleb Williams, who transferred to Oklahoma. He didn't want to play for Brent Venables and the defensive-minded coach. Mason Cobb's all Big 12, as it says in this article. In Alabama, they got a pretty good wide receiver in Jermaine. But more times than not, these portal players are portal players for a reason. So to make a big to-do out of them grabbing 6 defensive players out of the portal is not really that great, because one of them out of that 6 was all Big 12. The other one is a former 5-star, Anthony Lucas, former, meaning that he's obviously not living up to that 5-star tag, in my opinion. And the other 4, they ain't said nothing about them. So they also lost sacks leader, and then I'm going to butcher this name, I know, Tulia Tuapoluatu, and lockdown corner Mekhi Blackman. So you're telling me that you lost 2 of your best defensive players. I don't know how he could have been a lockdown corner, though, unless he was the only good player on that defense, because they were giving up a lot of points. There wasn't much of a lockdown to that. But you're giving up, you're losing 2 of your best players, and you're replacing them with portal players that couldn't make the cut where they were at. I don't know, I'm struggling here. Maybe y'all can make sense of this. I don't understand. He says practices have been real competitive, back and forth with the defense versus the offense. What does that mean? Does that mean that old Caleb Williams and his fingernail painting crew, are they not as good as they were last year? Because if the defense is holding their own with the offense, which was their bright spot, obviously that means that the offense ain't as good as it was, because they are losing a lot of wide receivers. And OKK, he may be in for a long ride this season. There won't be no repeat Heisman Trophy if they're allowing this defense to hang with them in practice. And people are like, well, you're just seeing the negative. What it could mean is the defense has gotten better. Yeah, it could. It could mean that, but that's a hard ask for me to believe that. Grinch says you can't simply say it's year 2 and it be the magic elixir. Well, no shit, Mr. Captain Obvious. The year 2 is always referred to as the year where you are supposed to make your most strides as a coach, as players, and getting cohesion together. And if you're not getting cohesion together, trying to sugarcoat this thing and saying, hey, don't expect no magic. That's not going to get it, man. If your defenses do like they done last year, and even if they're slightly better than last year, you're still, to me, probably going to lose probably 3 or 4 games. I mean, there was probably 3 or 4 games you should have lost last year, but you got a little lucky in the fact that you were able to outscore a lot of teams, especially with the concept, like I said, with the speed defense. It's just something that's just not cutting. It's just not cutting the butter here to me. They've been preaching this thing for a while, and at first when you went to Oklahoma, defense has done slightly better, but in the long term of things, as the season progresses, it's like these speed defenses get banged up and they start giving up a lot of points, especially with the strength and conditioning programs that go along with it. From what I understand from a lot of the Oklahoma fans, the strength and conditioning at Oklahoma while Grinch was there was yoga classes and Buddha squatting. Yoga is a good thing to do. I'm not making fun of yoga, but you've got to have more than yoga and Buddha squatting to make this defense tough. And while I do agree that you do need some speed on defense with the way the offenses are built these days, you also have to have some old guard every once in a while and have some big defensive players that are, and there's big defensive players out there that are fast as well. But this continued trying to say things are turning the corner and things are great, and then backing off of it and talking out of the other side of your mouth and saying, hey, wait a minute now. I said things are going to be better, but don't expect anything great. I say it's going to be great and it's going to be better, but it's not going to be great and it's not going to be better. Which is it, man? Y'all can't try to temper expectations and try to take some of the sting out of it. It's just, I don't know, man. I don't think it looks good for Alex Grinch. And if Lincoln Riley keeps him around another year and his defenses don't vastly improve this year, I think Lincoln Riley will probably be looking for another defensive coordinator next year. And if he doesn't, he might be looking for another job himself. Maybe, as one of my great listeners, George Contupis, likes me to say, maybe Lincoln Riley will be the punting coordinator for the Nagasaki Egg Rolls. But that's all I got to say about that. There's a little heart down here. If you don't mind, hit that. Throw me a few dollars in the coffers. And as always, KMCA to all the other teams. Class is now officially dismissed.